Politico, 12th of April 2024, why Scholz of Germany is submitting to the Chinese dragon. Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, showed up this week unexpectedly. Even by German standards, the 65-year-old Chancellor was regarded as humorless when he made his TikTok debut, vowing not to dance. If only. Scholz was grooving, even though his surprising TikTok endorsement was more melancholy kabuki than an amusing jig. Arriving only a few days before his trip to China, the home base of the contentious social network, Scholz looked keen to persuade Beijing that a buddy was on his way. And with good cause. Scholz requires China. The leader of Europe's faltering economic engine is running out of time to work a miracle and improve his government's terrible standing with the German people, as the next national election is less than a year away. Starting on Saturday, Scholz will embark on a 3-day visit to the Middle Kingdom, marking his longest and most significant overseas trip since taking office in late 2021. The Chancellor sees the tour as a chance to demonstrate to voters that he will do whatever it takes to keep Germany incorporated afloat in the face of record-low approval ratings and a fractured coalition. Zeitgeist be damned. Business comes first. One reason Scholz might like to avoid China is that the United States, Berlin's greatest ally, has been pressuring Berlin to de-risk its relationship with Beijing. Not to mention China's recent human rights record of non-compliance. China has taken an authoritarian turn under President Xi Jinping, suppressing the democracy movement in Hong Kong and driving more than 1 million Uyghurs, a minority group made up primarily of Muslims, into re-education camps that eerily resemble concentration camps. Of all nations, Germany should be sympathetic to the predicament of an ethnic minority compelled to live behind barbed wire under the watchful eyes of armed guards stationed in watchtowers. Rethink your thoughts. Berlin has repeatedly demonstrated that it is unwilling to sacrifice its prosperity on the altars of human rights, Washington's security concerns, or even the European Union, even though German officials are never weary of reminding the world of their dedication to the highest moral values. Consider Russia. Germany, which had for years disregarded warnings from friends about its reliance on Moscow, did not reverse direction and start weaning itself off of Russian energy until Russian tanks advanced toward Kyiv in early 2022. Not that Scholz became a better man. Any concerns he may have had about Germany's over-reliance on other nations seem to have vanished in the storm clouds engulfing the German economy. Like most investments under stress, Scholz's China venture is far from guaranteed. The route to hell. For many years, German exporters found that the path to China was paved with gold, which increased their earnings and kept Germany among the world's most prosperous nations. However, in light of Beijing's oppressive industrial policy and increasingly more aggressive protectionism, that path has recently begun to resemble the highway to hell. According to a recent survey by the German Chamber of Commerce in China, unfair competition is a problem for 2/3 of German businesses in China. Meanwhile, China's hefty subsidies to its major industries, including automakers and wind turbine manufacturers, are increasingly frustrating the European Union. Brussels is considering implementing tariffs as early as the summer due to the pressure domestic manufacturers face from a deluge of low-cost Chinese electric vehicle imports into Europe. Cheap imports have also put pressure on Germany's auto industry. Still, companies like Mercedes and BMW are reluctant to back punitive measures against China for fear of jeopardizing their commercial interests in the country should Beijing retaliate as expected. Put differently, there's no turning back. When German companies entered China in the 1980s, politicians and business leaders thought they were investing in the future. As it became prosperous, China would liberalize and become more Western, even democratic. Though the Uyghurs can attest, it was an excellent theory that did not turn out that way. On the other hand, China has spent decades studying the West and developing its technology to the point where it is independent of countries like Germany. Unfortunately, China is still necessary for Germany. China is now a key component of German corporations' worldwide business, including Siemens and Volkswagen, which started making investments in the nation 40 years ago. Approximately 50% of Volkswagen's worldwide automobile sales occur in China alone. Despite its troubled past, VW still has a factory in Xinjiang, where the Uyghurs are being held. The firm was founded by the Nazis and used slave labor during World War II. Even while the corporation has faced criticism in Germany for staying put, leaving would run the risk of upsetting China's authorities. The largest German corporations, such as the car industry and chemical manufacturers like BASF, are most exposed to China. Still, many of their suppliers have also placed significant wagers on the nation. The president of the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, Moritz Schularik, stated, "Trade with China brings us prosperity and is practically irreplaceable in the short term." Financial immobility. Economists and the International Monetary Fund anticipate the German economy will remain stagnant following a drab 2023. There are no immediate signs of improvement for exports, which have decreased by more than 2% this year. Even when employment in Germany is still high, if the economy doesn't improve soon, that might change quickly. Germany has many economic obstacles, such as an ongoing labor shortage and excessive regulation. Still, some economists believe that the biggest obstacle is the unfavorable attitude among consumers and companies. Timo Wolmerhauser, an economist from the Munich-based IFO Institute, one of Germany's top economic think tanks, described the situation as though the German economy is immobilized. There's a low mood and a lot of insecurity. In light of this, Scholz's trip to China exudes more than a tinge of desperation. China's economy is not the development engine of the past, even if it were to stop price dumping in Europe and open up to more international competition. China's economy is in serious trouble due to a real estate crisis and overcapacity in essential industries. The fact that China no longer needs the machinery and other highly designed capital goods that propelled German export growth to the nation in recent decades is a cause for more significant concern for Germany. Not only is there less demand, but Chinese businesses have surpassed their German counterparts, reducing the nation's need for imports. Due to these developments, some politicians, particularly those in the China-critical Green Party, say that Germany needs to take action to distance itself from China. According to a new analysis by the Kiel Institute, a significant breach with China would cause the German economy to contract by roughly 5%. Similar to the decline Germany endured following the COVID pandemic or the 2008 financial crisis. Put otherwise, it would be severe rather than lethal. According to Schularik, Kiel is resilient enough to handle such a dire situation. But it's easier said than done to brave that storm. Furthermore, Scholz cannot afford to see Germany's commercial ties with China further deteriorate when his nation's economy is already facing difficulties. What? The issue for Scholz is that he is stuck there. Germany's most significant export market, the United States, is already highly engaged in the country's industry. German exports to the US alone in 2023 reached €158 billion, compared to €97 billion to China. Theoretically, the market with the most significant room for expansion seems to be China, Germany's largest trading partner, when exports and imports are combined. Given Germany's severe economic conditions, Scholz should be perceived as taking action to increase exports. Furthermore, given the track record of success German corporations have enjoyed there is nowhere better for him to demonstrate to voters that he means business than China. But there's a more intricate calculus behind the optics. Germany is in a precarious situation because of the tensions between Washington and Beijing over Taiwan and global security in general, even if China's current economic problems are temporary. Germany cannot afford to lose either of the two countries since they make up over 20% of its commerce. This clarifies the delicate balance Scholz has attempted to strike between the two. Germany may be forced to give in to American pressure to distance itself from China if necessary because of its dependence on the United States for security. However, Scholz has balanced the two ties thus far, just like Angela Merkel did before him. Part of Berlin's success is due to its deceptive claims. Berlin protested but agreed to conduct a thorough investigation when the United States pressed Germany to prevent Chinese-owned Huawei from providing equipment for Germany's contemporary mobile phone networks, for instance. After 5 years, Germany is still searching. In the meantime, Huawei is still going strong. It's not that Scholz's administration doesn't consider these matters. A report titled Strategy on China, which was commissioned by the government, stated last year that the federal government is working to de-risk economic relations with China. Fortunately for Scholz, the phrase de-risk does not exist in German, which could help to explain why no one with actual authority in Berlin appears to be considering the proposal. Though it was little more than a 64-page paper tiger, the government's much-heralded strategy paper occupied Berlin's China-focused think tankers for months. Now that we are back in the real world, the German industry is continuing to engage with China and thriving. In 2023, German direct investment in China approached a record of around €12 billion. Leading economics institute IFO reports that German investments in China increased between 2021 and 2023 compared to the 5 years between 2015 and 2020. Cao Tao. Xi is the best person to comprehend Germany's dependence on China. Scholz was the first foreign leader to visit him after being de facto crowned leader for life in 2022. In an attempt to portray the trip as a peacekeeping effort, Scholz and his group claimed to have persuaded Xi to restrain Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was threatening to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine at the time. Even still, Scholz's primary concern was business. Disregarding eyebrows in Washington, he traveled to Beijing with a delegation consisting of roughly 12 business people. Scholz's visit is considerably more ambitious this time around. Shanghai, Beijing, and Chongqing, a 30 million-person metropolis home to hundreds of German businesses, are the three places he intends to visit. Scholz's extended audience with Xi on Tuesday will be the high point of his trip. Despite its declining economic status, Germany is still a valuable target for China because of its influence within the EU and strong connections with the United States. Should Donald Trump win the presidency again the following year, Xi will have a fantastic chance to court Berlin with the prospect of deeper economic relations. Above all, Scholz could now abandon Germany's careful dance.